So today I will be talking about the Blackberry Q10. I'm gonna do a review, and what I will do is I will compare it to the old Blackberry Torch 2, so 9810. Keep in mind that in this tutorial the purpose is not to compare the Blackberry versus how it's doing against other phones. The purpose really is aimed at people who have previously had Blackberries and maybe are considering buying a new Blackberry, or whether you should go to something else. So I will look at things that used to be good or things that were bad, and how they've improved it or how they've gotten rid of some stuff. But yeah, so mainly we'll focus on this phone. I won't spend too much time showing you the phone because there are plenty of videos that could show you the phone. What I would say though is you should go pop into a shop and have a feel for it, because it does feel much more robust. It feels much more executive than the previous phone. What I will do is I will first look at all the positive sides, then I will look at all the negative sides, and that's basically it. I will point out some cool features and some bad features. The operating system is really smooth. It is incredibly smooth compared to what we used to have in the older Blackberry. Another thing, the slide to unlock feature. So you can slide and completely unlock the phone, or you can slide just to quickly check, oh, I've got a Facebook message, and then you can just release and it will show you the time and the date. Or let's shut it down again. You can slide, and if you want to shut off the screen again, you just slide back down. The battery life is surprisingly good. Surprisingly by smartphone standards today, I would say. I mean, it does last me a day. That's basically the point I'm trying to make. But I would say that might depend on the fact of how much you use it. I mean, because the App Store is quite empty, it doesn't have as much stuff as Android and iPhones. You're just gonna end up using less, i.e. the battery lasts longer. Next up, the keyboard does feel much better. It feels much more comfortable. I mean, typing on it is incredibly easy. That's all I'd have to say. It just feels much much better in your hands. The keys feel bigger, as you can see. They've got this plasticky feeling on them that actually feels quite good. So it's very easy to type with them. Cool language function is something else that you have. If you speak more than one language, you can add the language to your languages list here in the settings. I can't remember exactly where here. And what it will do is it will recognize when you're typing in another language. So if you have other letters in that language, it will add them automatically. You don't have to go in and press them yourself. And then if you don't have to switch between languages anymore if you don't want to. You can just keep both on, and it will just switch as you type. So it will know what language you're typing in. Obviously with a few setbacks, but more or less it's quite accurate. I was quite surprised. Screen resolution is very nice. I mean, the screen feels much more crisp. The colors are much more crisp than they used to be. Bedside mode, much nicer as well. So if you got your charger on, I mean, because I don't have a charger, this flap doesn't show. But if your charger is on, this flap comes up and you can just scroll down and you got your bedside mode. You got your watch here. Skype, thank God we've finally got Skype on a Blackberry. And the sound quality is closer to the Apple devices than it is to the Android ones. So sound-wise, the Skype application is very good. Calendar used to be black, but I think they realized that's quite stupid, because if it's black, it's very difficult to see the numbers, very difficult to see a lot of things. So they finally made it white, and it looks very nice and neat and simple. And the antenna for picking up Wi-Fi is much stronger than it used to be. Browser, everyone keeps going on about the browser. The browser does feel really nice, however it does have a lot of bugs. The Blackberry Hub, again, really nice. The fact you can peek in here, have a look at what you're doing. You can add everything to the hub. Search and usability of just standing here in the home screen. So if you want to be productive, you don't have to go in anywhere to do things. If I want to tweet, I just write tweet, and I'll post whatever tweet I want to tweet. Camera is alright, is what I would say. Because of the screen resolution, etc., you can choose to take pictures in aspect ratio 1:1, 16:9, 4:3, etc. So you can change that. Another thing that I realized that was really cool is, if I've got it on 1:1, if you decide to take a picture like this, so let's take a picture like that, it will recognize the angle that you did it in, and you will put it in that angle. So it will notice if you're taking a picture straight forward like this, it will notice that you put your phone on the side. So when it saves it, it does save it horizontally. The sound of the speakers are much better. So if I play music, the sound is much better than it used to be. So if I do this, if I turn it up, so the sound is much better than it used to be on the speakers. And a lot of people were talking about these buttons. The convenience key to be able to play around with this has changed. Unfortunately, I think they should bring it back. They should let people decide what they want this key to be. But one good thing is that once you play music or video, this voice control button turns into a play and pause button automatically. So that's good, is that they've done it for you. So let's talk about the negative sides. The phone is really not built for left-handed people. I noticed that because, for instance, you will notice that if you sit with your right hand, play around, do things, you won't notice the phone getting very hot. Why? Because all of the parts of the phone that seems to be getting hot are aimed towards this side. So this part of the phone gets very hot when you sit like this. You realize that it gets much hotter. So you will notice very quickly the phone gets hot, it gets uncomfortable on your fingers, etc. So from that aspect, they really didn't think about that. Also, it would have been nice instead of just doing this to scroll into the hub, they would have done an option so that you can do it this side. Because if you are left-handed, you rather sit like this and quickly scroll it this way than to do it this way, because if you're in a rush, your thumb is going to cover half the screen, and B, it's much easier to go inwards than to go outwards. That's what it was made for. So if you are right-handed, this is really simple. So that's also something that's very frustrating. The functions for inside and outside the case. So with the old Blackberries, you could have one setting for notifications, vibration, sound inside the holster, and another set of settings outside. They have gotten rid of that, which is incredibly frustrating again, because that was one of the main reasons why I had a Blackberry phone, so that if I was in a meeting, etc., I could just pull it out and just put it like this, and I knew nothing would bother it. But if it was in my pocket, I would put it in my case and in my pocket, so I would have wanted it to vibrate so I can hear it. For a lot of things, I've noticed that Blackberry has taken away a lot of their hotkeys, which is silly, because if you've got a keyboard like this up all the time, you should be utilizing every single key almost to the extent that you can, so that when people are sitting in the different applications, they can use the keys to their advantage. But hopefully they will see more of that. In the contacts list, every time you add an account, it adds the contacts to that account, all of your contacts. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all of your emails. By default, that shouldn't have been the case. So even though it doesn't synchronize everything, you disable synchronization, it still has a separate option in the contacts settings that says show these contacts in my main contacts list. And that's the other annoying thing right now, is that all of my Facebook friends and all the Twitter stuff is now incorporated into the phone. So even though there is a setting for sync, the setting for syncing them is different from how the contacts show up in your contacts list. You have to change that separately. That's quite frustrating again. So another thing is that many buttons are quite difficult to press in the right place. Let me go to this as a good example. I want to scroll up the brightness. I mean, look at this. It is not very, you have to be very careful. So one way to do it is you hold your hand a little bit further up and scroll it. But if you're clumsy, you're on the go, you want to quickly raise the brightness, you can't just do this. So I'm trying to scroll that brightness up, and I noticed that for some buttons is that they're quite sensitive in where exactly you press, which is quite frustrating. So with the old Blackberries, you had the automatic dimming of the backlight option. So to give you an example, if the room gets darker, so let's cover the sensors here, the brightness of the screen goes down. There we go, to fit the room. If I remove that, because the room is bright, it will go back up quite well. I mean, a couple of things. So this is the lowest screen brightness. Wait, let's see, let's wait for it to react. There we go. This is the lowest screen brightness on the older BlackBerry. This is the lowest brightness on the new BlackBerry. And what they've said is, oh, we've added the new function of it. They're talking about perceived brightness. I think that's a lazy way of saying we just couldn't be bothered. Because, let me give you the example. So if I cover the sensors up here, and we've got the sensors covered on the older BlackBerry, I mean, perceived brightness, blah blah blah. When you're in the dark, this BlackBerry is very bright, and it's very uncomfortable for your eyes, and there's no option to make it darker. And when you're in absolute sunshine, it's very dark. I remember that with the old BlackBerry, it was much better when you were outside to turn up the screen brightness to suit the outside. But this new one, I mean, this is the brightest, so it is much brighter as a screen. But interestingly enough, in the sunshine, this phone you can see more on because it brightens it up because of the sunshine. So that's also, so I don't agree with what they've done with how they've changed the usage. And the difference is you don't have the option of automatically dimming backlight on the new BlackBerry. So they've tried to kind of remove it and say, oh no, we've made it better, but they actually haven't. They made it worse. Another thing that's interesting but annoying, they've really cut down on the amount of ringtones that are default ringtones in the phone. You've got like 3 different notification ringtones. It's unbelievably silly. You have to download apps for ringtones. Okay, so if you type a lot, because you had, obviously you had the Alt button and you had the trackpad, it was much easier to highlight some text and delete it. Let's do the same here. So, obviously because we don't have a trackpad, we can't use some of it, so we kind of have to use our fingers and hope that it will react. If it doesn't, I want to remove all of this. It's, you know, you end up with a bit of a challenge just to remove some text. It shouldn't take this long considering how quickly I removed the text here. So if I want to remove all of it, there we go, it's gone. If I want to remove all of it here, I have to press and hold, you know, all of that sort of stuff. But with old BlackBerry, there is a password keeper built in. It's a built-in app. It is a native app and it's already installed. With a new BlackBerry, it's a native app, but it's not installed. You have to go to the app world and download it. Here's the other thing. With the older BlackBerry, you could hide icons. So I could press and hold and hide the icon. I would say that I kind of miss that function. But I do appreciate that it is a new operating system. It functions in a very different way. But I mean, still, apps like help and search, after a while you don't really need them. I wish there was a way of just getting rid of them to save space, but they're all here. And also, selecting individual messages is a nightmare on this new phone compared to the old one. With the old one, I think you could press something like Shift and scroll down on your trackpad. You selected a lot of messages. You could delete them all or save them all. With a new one, you have to press and hold them, and then press select more and press them one by one, which ones you want, and then press. I mean, it's much more fiddly to, you know, deal with bulk amount of messages. And one of the biggest downsides is you used to be able to choose between deleting the message on the handheld or deleting messages on handheld and on main server. With this new BlackBerry, that's not possible anymore. If you delete them on your phone, they will delete off your email. So that's quite frustrating. You still should have wanted to keep them. And some other annoying things when you first set up the phone. When I first added my emails, I wanted to add my emails over the past year. I don't know why, maybe that's just me. But the options it gave you was, I think, something like 10 days, 30 days, 90 days, or forever. So I just decided, okay, maybe I'll do forever. Maybe it does have some sort of threshold, some sort of limit as to how far behind forever really is. But there is no time lapse for forever. So it spent a day and a half or 2 days just getting all of my messages in that I've ever received over my Hotmail account or my whatever account I have. what I really wanted was that, you know, all of my emails over the past year. So what I had to do is I added all of my emails forever, which took a day, as I said, and then I had to delete the ones that are older than the year. The problem was then that they deleted them off the server, but I still wanted to keep them on the server. So I had to go in there and maybe undo some of it. I don't know what happened, and I just left it. You know, I don't want 6-7 years of emails in my phone. But again, I didn't want 90 days in my phone. I wish you could have just set a limit and say, okay, add a specific amount. Oh, this many days. I don't know why they don't do small stuff like that. And deleting messages in the hub is also quite annoying, because what you have to do is you have to press and hold and then press delete, or press and hold and press the delete key here. Why not create an easier way where you can slightly press and hold and swipe to the left, or slightly press and hold and swipe to the right, and that way it will delete it. So deleting messages is also a bit more fiddly than it used to be. Blackberry Protect used to have much more settings than it does today. That's also something that's quite frustrating. You go into Blackberry Protect and it just says backup, yes, no. Before you could do backup every day, backup over Wi-Fi. You know, and another annoying thing is if you've spent some time writing a Facebook message, and let's say you're writing it to a group of people, you want to go out to the application, check an email for some extra details, and then go back into the Facebook application and add those details. You can't press back in the Facebook application in the hub, because if you do, it won't save the text you've written. So if you've written, like, spend 5-10 minutes writing something, it's not going to save it. I mean, with the older ones, it would save it as a draft, but I think that might just be a bug that they haven't addressed yet. But overall, those are the negative sides. I've pointed out the negative sides more, not because there are more negative points with this phone, but because I think those are the things people are looking for. They want to see what is it that has been lost, what is it that has been gained compared to the older Blackberries. But even with those things, this Blackberry still feels like a Blackberry because of the keyboard. I don't know about the Z10, but with this Q10, because of the keyboard, it just makes everything so much simpler, so much easier. But, you know, as a general word of advice is, if you don't type that much on your phone, if you're going to use it more for media and film, etc., then this wouldn't be a phone for you. There is no typing like a physical keyboard, and I have demonstrated this to a lot of my friends many times before, and I can type much more efficiently. I can type much quicker than any of them can on any of their touchscreen phones. I mean, touchscreen is really a very stupid way of typing, and we are kind of in the intermediary. Other things are coming out soon, but you know, the problem here is that obviously the keys cover half the screen or whatever part of the screen, which means you've got a smaller screen. So if you want media, mainly media, then this really isn't a phone for you, because the keyboard will cover most of the screen. You can get a bigger screen with other devices. But if you do type a lot, if you type a lot of emails, if you type a lot of messages, then I would still recommend this new Blackberry, simply because as a communication device, it is one of the best. I've tried a lot, or at least from my point of view, it is one of the best. Anyway, this has been a very long review, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.